Welcome to November's webinar, Thriving Through the Holidays. My name is Jazzy, and I'm the program manager here for Exos at Autodesk. And I'm really looking forward to talking about this. I know this year is our first year after a few long years of, COVID, maybe lack of holidays. So I'm really excited to get to talk about, how we can make the most out of our holiday season this year. So for today's agenda, we're just going to kind of talk through what the holidays mean to us, how we can thrive this year, and then kind of putting it all together with some action items here at the end. So, first off, here, and then we'll also all have questions at the end too. So, the holidays, so like what comes to your mind when you think of the holidays? So I've listed some things here. I know for me, I think of traditions, of my family, and food, because those things are all kind of looped into one. Um, but there's definitely a lot of things that we all do over the holidays. And the last thing on this list, right? We got stress. So sometimes with all of the good, we get a little bit of stress and overwhelm because of the amount of good we have going on over the next, I would say, arguably 6 weeks, but it might have already started. I know now's the time of year. We got Thanksgiving next week. Friendsgivings are coming up, so I'm sure we're already busy a week ahead of Thanksgiving. So if anyone wants to share, you can drop it in the chat or you can come off mute. What do you think of when you think of that, or what comes to mind when you think of the holidays? If there's anything else that I may have left off of my list. And of course, too, I had to put coziness on here because I know it's winter time. It's getting cold, even out here in sunny California. It's a little chilly for us. Um, so yeah, so we got all this going on. Sometimes that leads to stress. So when we get stressed out, how can we thrive? So, one thing that I'm going to do here with going over this, I'm going to talk about a few scenarios that we might be experiencing this year or that we've experienced in the past, and kind of walking through the pillars of human performance that we use here at Exos. So, those are mindset, movement, nutrition, and recovery. So, those four things we can kind of use together. So, I'm going to kind of talk through how we can kind of use all four of those for each of these scenarios. So, first one, right? We're starting to get stressed out. We've got our last minute planning, which includes buying gifts, right? Now that we, again, are kind of back up to normal after COVID, we might be having to buy more gifts than we normally do. We have more gatherings. We got to get the grocery shopping done if we're cooking, if we're hosting people. Maybe we got family coming in and staying with us for the holidays, whether that's next week or maybe in a few weeks. We got parties coming up. Like I said, we got Friendsgivings coming up. There's holiday parties for Christmas, work, right? Food always gets brought into work. So maybe you're having a team holiday party that you got to make something for, you got to go to. And all of that leads to our normal schedule being altered a little bit, right? Sometimes we got to travel too. So travel's coming up. That gets altered too. Sometimes we got delays, weather, all of that. We got our families that we're dealing with. Maybe we're hosting them, maybe we're visiting them, all of that. And there's really no routine, right? Like right now, we're used to waking up, we go to work, maybe we have our routine down, we got to drop the kids off at school, whatever it is we got going on every day, there's that routine. It's easy kind of stay in that, right? During the holidays, there's not really that routine to kind of help keep us anchored. So we start to kind of get stressed out when we start to get all of these things kind of coming up. So the best thing that we can do, our solution is to focus on mindset. So I'm going to kind of loop in recovery with this as well, because sometimes mindset and recovery, you can kind of do similar things to help with both of those. So the best thing we can do is really strategize our time and strategize our schedule before we get to that point. So first thing I have on here, carve out time for yourself, right? This is the season of giving. So we're giving, we're giving, we're giving, and sometimes we don't have anything left to give, right? We have to fill our own cup before we can fill other cups around us, right? So a couple things we can do here, and these, meditation, journaling, yoga, Those things are also kind of looped in with recovery. I should have put sleep on here too. Taking some naps can help a ton when we're stressed, when we're busy, or even just going to bed a little bit early, right? And that kind of all ties in with creating those boundaries because it can be really hard too if you got your family in town or you're staying with friends or family, whatever you have going on. It's really easy to like stay up later or to do more things because you feel like you need to be spending time with your family, whatever you got going on. Create those boundaries. Like, hey, look, like I'm going to go do some yoga. Like, I need to calm my mind down. Just be open with those around you. So that way you can help yourself be able to better be there for others. So that's the first thing that we can do here for our mindset. Next thing here is planning ahead. So, my favorite quote, right? Failing to prepare is preparing to fail, right? So, we know we got a busy few months coming up. I know we're still working, right? We get those 2 weeks off for Christmas, but it can kind of be a rush to kind of get all those things kind of taken care of before we're off for a little bit. I know I'm off next week, so I know I got stuff I got to do this week to plan for next week when I'm not here, right? So take some time, take a little time out, maybe in your me time you've carved out for yourself. Set your plan. Schedule out what you got to do, prioritize your to-do list. All of that's going to help. So then that way you know what's coming and you don't even have to worry about it. It's like, nope, I'm taking care, I'm buying all the food, tomorrow, so I don't have to deal with it when I have to cook it on Saturday. This is all, arbitrary. So, just plan ahead and that will help a ton. And then really try and stick to your regular schedule as much as you can. So this could be something like, you know, I wake up and I have coffee. That's your anchor for the day. Stick with it, right? Don't go up and do whatever and then go get your coffee. Like if that's your morning routine when you're working, as you wake up, you get your coffee and maybe sit down and read a little bit, keep that because that's going to set the tone for your day. So you can even create your schedule. Maybe you create your morning routine now for you to then be able to set that anchor and set the tone for your day when you're not working. So I'm a huge proponent of a morning routine anyways. So that's really going to help there. Just so keep that anchor in for you. And then this last one, just give yourself some grace, right? It's the holiday season. We might get a little bit distressed. It's okay. We got this. It's a good time of the year. As much as crazy as it can be, we got this. We got this. All right. Next scenario here, it's party season, right? We got the best food of the year. Maybe you don't like Thanksgiving food, but maybe you love Christmas food, right? I know I love Christmas cookies. Christmas cookies and frosting is like it's my jam, right? So with all of that and with all the parties that we have and the meals and all of that, you might find yourself skipping meals to save calories for maybe foods coming up for a party you have, or it's Thanksgiving Day and you're trying to save room for your dinner. You might be intaking more calories than you think you are because there's a lot of yummy holiday themed drinks, right? We got some pumpkin spice lattes, we got the peppermint mochas, there's eggnog, there's a lot of yummy things to be drinking this time of year. So you might be, maybe not eating as much, but you're still consuming the same amount of calories because you're drinking a lot more. Um, you might be ignoring your hunger and fullness cues. I know for me, when I think of like big holidays, being the youngest grandkid of 13, you get pushed to the back of the line, right? I was always going downstairs. When's dinner gonna be ready? When are we eating? Oh, don't fill up on snacks, but you gotta wait to eat dinner, right? So we might be ignoring if we're really hungry, and that can lead to overeating, right? And maybe we're feeling a little bit tired, a little lethargic, and maybe we're just feeling like super like bleh, right? Because we're indulging, we're maybe eating foods we're not used to eating. I know I have a dairy allergy, but sometimes I'll sacrifice that, right, to have some good, some good home cooked food, right? So you might be feeling some of these things around this time of the year. So for that, we can focus a little bit more on our nutrition, right? So I want us to all think about food being fuel for our bodies, right? So a couple things that we can do here. First up, we can practice some mindful eating. So with that, we can set an intention. What are the intentions behind our large meals, right? Like for example, Thanksgiving. how do we want to feel going into the meal? How do we want to feel when we finished? Like what are we looking to get out of the food, right? And sometimes for this, I like to kind of remove the food from the situation, right? And just really focus on, the purpose, right? What am I grateful for? You can even be grateful for your food as well. And, just practice that. Like, you don't have to do it like sit down and do it right in front of your food, but you can kind of maybe have those thoughts and have that conversation with yourself before you get into that meal. And this next one, awareness, is my favorite part of mindful eating because then you really get to savor each and every bite, right? Taking your bite, chewing it slowly, being mindful. Like, how does this taste? Like, does this taste different than it normally does? Like, why do I like this dish a lot? And just really bringing that awareness. And you can even bring the awareness to the room, right? Like, how's everyone feeling? Like, how are these conversations going? All of that can really help with when we are actually consuming the meal. My next kind of tip here for y'all is to build a balanced meal. If it's a party or dinner, whatever it is, this will help a ton. So a balanced meal is going to be proteins, carbs, and fats all on your plate. So I'm sure we've all seen the food plate with the portion sizes on it and stuff. You don't necessarily have to follow that, but just making sure we're getting, a vegetable, a carb source. So it could look something like some, green beans or Brussels sprouts and some, mashed potatoes and the turkey. That's a balanced meal, right? We got all aspects in there. So just focus on that. You don't necessarily have to focus on your portion sizes, right? Down at the bottom here, we see moderation is key. So, you don't have to be super mindful of those portion sizes, right? Like you get Thanksgiving dinner one time, right? We don't need to be not eating it or not eating those foods that we enjoy. But if you focus on balancing out your plate, that's going to be the key here. My next two tips here kind of roll into one. So I should have put these in a different order, but when we skip meals here, we tend to then overeat later in the day. One way that we can kind of prevent that from happening, so studies show that if we start our day with protein, we're less likely to eat more during the day. And this is because protein is really satiating, so it keeps you fuller longer. It's a little bit harder to digest. So that's where eating protein can really help when we don't want to necessarily overeat, or if we're trying to tide ourselves over until the end of the day, right? So maybe on, next week on Thanksgiving for lunch, maybe having a little bit more protein. So that way, you're not going to fill up on the snacks, on the appetizers, on all that kind of stuff, and really just help hold you all the way through to your meal. And then, like I said, last one on here, moderation is key, right? Holidays come around once a year. We don't have to overeat because we're not going to be able to eat the food for another year, right? It'll still be there. The food will always be there. We can, eat and enjoy and really savor those moments with the family that we're spending with our friends and all of that. So don't restrict yourself. It's all good. Comes around once a year. It'll be here again next year. We got this. I'm going to say that a lot here too. All right, moving on to our last scenario here I have for y'all. So, we have, we're tired, right? It's the end of the holiday season. Maybe even it's the beginning of holiday season, and we've just been working and we're tired. We're feeling worn out. And, maybe we got a lot of travel coming up here, or maybe we're traveling across a lot of time zones. That can kind of make us a little bit more fatigued. Our workouts have moved to the back burner, right? We're not really moving as much as we normally do because we're busy. We're not sleeping as much because, again, we got a lot going on, a lot of things to balance, to juggle out. And, it can be a lot too when we're trying to spend time with everyone, right? I feel like, looking or thinking back to when, was away at college and I would come home for a break. The whole break was busy trying to fit everyone in, make sure I spent time with everyone before I left for the next 5 months, right? So this is something that you might be feeling, or maybe you're a little anxious about feeling that way and making sure you're not going to leave anyone out, which can be tiring in itself, right? So what we can do here is we can focus on moving, right? Movement is medicine. And this doesn't mean we have to schedule workouts in every day. We don't have to be in the gym for 3 hours. We don't have to work or work out because we're consuming something or because we're going to. Okay. I don't want this to be construed as any of that. Okay. We want to move to give ourselves energy, to give ourselves focus, and to really take care of our mindset recovery as well. Movement is really looped in with that. So, um, one thing that we can do is we can kind of incorporate it as a group thing, right? So it could be family movement, it could be movement with your friends. You can schedule a hike. I know my family and I like to take walks after Thanksgiving dinner, partially because the dog always likes to go out for a walk. Tino's like, take me outside, right? But it helps because then, walking especially after a larger meal can help with digestion. It can help us feel a little bit better and all of that. And also getting outside is always a good always, always, always a good idea. You can also sign up for a turkey trot. You can even sign up to volunteer at a turkey trot. They can always use extra help. So if you know of one in your area and you want to reach out to them, maybe you and your family volunteer that morning, or you just go and kind of hang out, or you can even just, walk your own 5K if you'd like on that morning. So that's always a good thing to do. And then you can always incorporate, games. I know sometimes my friends and I will gather for a football game on the morning of Thanksgiving or the day after. We're going bowling with, my family always goes bowling the day after Thanksgiving. So there's all these things that we can do to be moving that are still incorporating that time with our family and friends. So that way we don't have to feel overwhelmed by fitting all of that in. Um, the next thing we can do is add in movement snacks. So what this means, I like to call them movement snacks because you do a little bit here, a little bit there whenever you have time, right? I always like preach 30-minute workouts, right? We don't really need a lot more than 30 minutes. All of our live classes are 30 minutes for this reason, because you can get in and get out really quickly, go on with your day. You don't have to spend a bunch of time. But sometimes we don't have 30 minutes at a time, right? So if you do 10 minutes in the morning, maybe do like 15 minutes in the afternoon, that's still 25 minutes of a workout. You just split it up, right? So you can definitely take little breaks throughout the day to get some movement in, even if it's just a quick stretch. Maybe you do some child's pose and some deep breathing to kind of reset your nervous system, to kind of de-stress a little bit. That ties in with mindset recovery as well. So it's never a bad idea to kind of sprinkle it in throughout the day. And then this last bullet, if you're going to be traveling this year, you can always, I know when I'm traveling, I like to just kind of walk around the airport. I'm always super anxious on flights. So I get to the airport earlier usually than I need to. And I'll just kind of walk around, get some movement in, get some steps in. You can always find a quiet place in the airport if it's not busy to kind of do some stretching, especially if you have a long flight, you're probably going to be sitting for a long time. So that can kind of just help break out, or break up the amount of sitting that you do during the day. And all this goes to if you're working and you're like starting to get tired and stuff, just step away, take a quick walk. You can even do a lap. Sometimes I'll just do laps around my apartment and then come and sit back down. So definitely never a bad idea just to get out, get those little movement snacks in, and just break up your day, break up the sitting you got going on. So those are kind of all the scenarios and the tips that I have. So the next part here is kind of just putting it all together, right? So the three main points here, three takeaways I want everyone to take home with them, right? How can we thrive this year? We're going to make a plan, right? Make a plan with your scheduling, with how you're going to spend your time, all of that. Set your intentions, right? What do you want to get out of the holiday season? What are you looking forward to most? Maybe you can even, set your intention with like, I'm going to allow myself to, go all out on Thanksgiving, and then I'm going to get, right back to it on Friday. Whatever your intentions are for the holidays. And this last one, make sure you take time for yourself. Like I said, it's really hard to pour from an empty cup. So make sure you're taking that time, fill your cup up, make sure you're taking care of yourself, and that's going to go a long way. And that will help you feel refreshed coming back from our 2-week break for Christmas and for New Year's. So then that way we can start 2023 off on the right foot, well rested, recovered, or ready to rock and roll. So that's what I have for y'all today. Does anyone have any questions about things I talked about? You can always come off mute. You can drop it in the chat. I have an eye on the chat box. So if you have anything to add, maybe there's something that you like to do that you want to share with the group, kind of take that time now if you have anything. I'll give y'all a few seconds. Chat. Okay. Awesome. Cool. Well, if anyone has any questions after this, feel free to reach out. I'm on Slack, I'm on Teams. You can send me an email. You can always set up a consultation as well if you wanted to dive into anything else regarding your health or wellness. Does not have to be holiday related. But thank you all so much for coming. I hope you have a great day. Happy holidays, and I'll see y'all soon. Thanks for coming, everyone.